الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعد نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اقتفى أثره واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, then inshallah ta'ala today we'll start or add a new book to our series, يعني برنامج علم السلف, that series that deals with the knowledge of the Salaf as-Salih radiyallahu ta'ala anhum wa rahimahum, regarding the different avenues of Islamic knowledge. We have a reading that deals with the knowledge of the Salaf as it relates to tafsir. And we have a reading that's in Mawsu'at al-Tafsir al-Ma'thur. And we have a reading that deals with the knowledge of the Salaf as it relates to hadith. And that is the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shaybah. And we have a series or a book that deals with the knowledge of the Salaf as it relates to Aqidah. And that is Sharh Usul I'tiqadi Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah Lalaka'i. Just as we have a book that deals with the ilm of the Salaf, the knowledge of the Salaf, as it relates to fiqh, and that is Al-Awsat Ibn al-Mundhiri rahimahullah ta'ala. In addition to that, and there are a lot of things that can be added to this barnamij, to this series of readings that we do that deals with the knowledge of the Salaf. But one of the things that we saw fit to add to it, and we ask Allah to give us success to complete it, is a book that is necessary for the one who wants to learn the knowledge of the Salaf. For the one who wants to learn the knowledge of the Salaf. And that is a book that deals with the knowledge itself and its virtues. Knowledge itself, its definition, how to seek it, how to give it, as well as the virtues of those who seek it and the virtues of those who give it. And there are a lot of books in this field. There are a lot of books in this field. From them are those that are written by the later scholars, and these are books that are suitable that a student should start with them. Books like Kitab al-Ilm للشيخ Muhammad bin Salih al-Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala, or Hilyatul Talib al-Ilm by Bakr Abu Zayd, with an explanation of Sheikh Uthaymin rahimahullah ta'ala. And then, as well as there are books that are, authored by the Salaf in this field, like Kitab al-Ilm Ibn Abi Khaythama rahimahullah ta'ala. But the book that we have chosen, and perhaps it's due to our extreme love, our sharaf with the people of the West, the Islamic West. It is a book that was authored by Abu Umar Yusuf ibn Abdullah ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Barr al-Namari rahimahullah ta'ala al-Andalusi, who died in the year 463 after the Hijrah. Ibn Abdul Barr al-Namari rahimahullah ta'ala, al-alim al-mashhur, the scholar who was well known rahimahullah ta'ala, al-Andalusi al-Qurtubi al-Namari, فيلتقي نسبه, so his lineage, it meets with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and their great grandfather Nizar, Arabi asl, an original Arab, his from the descendants of Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam, Abu Umar Yusuf ibn Abdullah ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah ta'ala, who was born in the year 367 and died in the year 463, Hafidh al-Maghrib. So he lived a long life. He lived approximately 96 years, and he authored many of a work. From the things that are most famous from his works were the book At-Tamheed, which is an explanation of what is in the book Al-Muwatta by Imam Malik, from understanding in different chains, in which he organized the Muwatta of Imam Malik according to Imam Malik's teachers, and then explained it in one of those books that fashioned history, that shaped history. That book At-Tamheed is one of the extremely important books in Islam that every Muslim should be aware of and should have access to it. Every student specifically should have in his library a book that is called At-Tamheed li Ibn Abdul Barr. Likewise, he wrote another book explaining the Muwatta called Al-Istithkar. And Al-Istithkar is a book that explains the Muwatta of Imam Malik, but more from a fiqh aspect, right? More from a legislative or jurisprudence aspect, while At-Tamheed, while covering the topics of the Muwatta, it also delves into the benefits, the Hadithiyya, Al-Fawaid Al-Hadithiyya, Wal-Ulum Al-Hadith, those Hadith benefits and the sciences of Hadith in a more abundant way. And Ibn Abdul Barr, he's famous for a tasnif. He's well known for the books that he has written. He's written books in the biographies of the Sahaba. He's written books in various fields. He was, in his early affair, Zahiri al-Madhab, upon the Madhab of Ahl al-Zahir. And then later on, he transitioned into the Madhab of Imam Malik, as Imam al-Dhahabi states, with Amailun Bayin ila al-Shafi'i, with a strong inclination to the Shafi'i Madhab. But in spite of all that, or regardless of all of that, he was an individual who had reached martabat al-ijtihad. He had reached the level of being from those who are able to do ijtihad, independent thought regarding the religion, to extract his own conclusions from the text. This is a little bit about Ibn Abdul Barr, and of course we could go on and on about him. One of the more famous and more important scholars of Islam. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that I wanted to mention about him? From the benefits, min al-Lata'if, especially with this book that is in front of us that we still have yet to name. The name of the book is called Jami' Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlihi. The comprehensive book clarifying what is knowledge and its virtues. A comprehensive book clarifying what is knowledge, or clarifying knowledge and its virtues. Jami', right? That encyclopedia, if you will, but not necessarily like a jami' is a we talked about the different types of books of hadith, but here it's just a comprehensive book. Jami' Bayan al-Ilm, clarifying what is knowledge, wa fadlihi, and its virtue. And the author himself, rahimahullah ta'ala, he'll explain to us in his introduction what this book contains. From the lata'if, from the nice benefits to mention is that during this period, Ibn Abdul Barr was known as Hafidhul Maghrib, the scholar of hadith of the West. And there was at the same time another individual who was known as Hafidhul Mashriq, scholar of hadith of the East. And the two of them, they lived at similar times and actually died in the same year, 463 Hijri. So the scholar of the East was none other than Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi, rahimahullah ta'ala. And the scholar of the West was this individual, Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala. And both of them have a book that is similar in this topic of how to seek knowledge and the virtues of knowledge. So, Al-Hafiz, Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi, he wrote a book entitled, subhanallah, Al-Jami li Akhlaq Al-Ra'i wa Al-Jami li Akhlaq Al-Rawi wa Adab Al-Sami', a comprehensive book regarding the character or the characteristics of the one narrating and the etiquette for the one listening. Al-Jami' li Akhlaq Al-Rawi wa Adab Al-Sami'. That comprehensive book regarding the characteristics or the character of the narrator, the one reporting the hadith, as well as the adab of the sami', the etiquette of the one listening to the hadith. And the scholar of the West, Al-Hafiz Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala, he wrote this book, Jami' Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlihi, this comprehensive book regarding the clarification of knowledge and its virtues. And so this is one of the subtle things to mention, is that these two scholars who lived in the same period, who died in the same year, they have similar works in the same topic. And it's all of it is suitable to be read and learned. And alhamdulillah, we've had the opportunity to study some of the previous book, Al-Jami li Akhlaq al-Rawi wa Adab al-Sami', as well as, you know, other books in this field. And this is one of the reasons why we chose this book, Al-Jami' li Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlihi, because it's not something that we have had the opportunity up until now to go over in totality. So we saw fit to take this opportunity to read it in totality, inshallah ta'ala, especially it being connected to an imam from the A'imma of Islam, who is well known and famous for his works. And this is a book that you find the heart of the student constantly wanting to be or constantly attached to it. And that is because the author, as is the condition in our barnamij, as is the condition in our series, he relates everything via the chain. And so everything that he mentions from the Salaf regarding these statements, whether it be a hadith or whether it be the statement of one of the Sahaba or the Tabi'een, Atba' Tabi'een, or the Ulama of Islam, then all of it he mentions with his chain back to them. And Ibn Abdul Barr was a major scholar of hadith. Ibn Hazm rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, I've never seen anybody similar to him. And so how about somebody better? And so this is the thing that, you know, drives us to want to include this book in our series, because of the author's concern with reporting everything back via chain. And this chain is from that 5th century, right? From the 4th century up into the 5th century Hijri. And so it's going to give us an introduction to a different group of scholars in the lower ends of the chain. And in the higher ends of the chain, we'll see the different pathways that the scholars of Al-Andalus. And Andalus, in case you didn't know, is what is known as, you know, Islamic Spain. During the early stages or early generations of Islam, around the year 92, the Muslims actually, after opening the majority of North Africa, if not the entirety of North Africa, from Egypt all the way to the Atlantic and Morocco and things like this, they crossed over the strait there between Morocco and Spain, or the Iberian Peninsula, and ended up opening that Iberian Peninsula, conquering the Visigoths, and that area became known as Andalus. Andalus, which was known at that time anyway in the language, but that word Andalus became synonymous with the Islamic territories in the Iberian Peninsula. And this was done by Tariq ibn Ziyad, one of the Berber who had accepted Islam during the Muslim opening of North Africa, under the leadership of Musa ibn Nusayr, who was also from Berber descendants. And these individuals, Allah knows best, Musa ibn Nusayr from the Tabi'een, or possibly the Atba' Tabi'een, but some of them consider him from the Tabi'een. And likewise Tariq ibn Ziyad, right? All of these individuals, this is in the year 92. And these were individuals who had just accepted Islam not long ago and became Muslim leaders, and from those who propagated the spread of Islam until it reached the Western hemisphere, if you will, and entered into Spain. And within 4 years, they had conquered the majority of the Iberian Peninsula and had made their way up into France, past the Pyrenees Mountains, and west as well, getting up to the borders of, if I'm not mistaken, Switzerland and that area. And his goal, Musa bin Nusayr, his goal was to approach Constantinople from the west, from the western side of it, just as the Muslims were approaching Constantinople from the east. And Constantinople during that time was the Markez, the center of the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire of that time, which was a very strong fortified city. The Muslims ended up not conquering it until 1453, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in the late, not 1453, I'm sorry. Yeah, somewhere in that time. Not until, it was a much later time. I believe 1453 is when they actually conquered Constantinople. Yani Miladi, 1453 Miladi. But the point of it is that was their agenda. And they conquered this area with little to no knowledge about its terrain, its inhabitants, its systems. But in the year 92, they crossed over and they landed on an area that we now know, it named after that individual, Tariq ibn Ziyad, Jebel al-Tariq, or as they try to distort it in English, Gibraltar. It's actually, what that word actually comes from is the Arabic statement, Jebel al-Tariq, right? The mountain that Tariq landed on. They named it after him, the mountain of Tariq. And this is where the Muslims established the Cordobian government, where Bani Umayyah later has their center of rulership after being expelled by Bani Abbas from the east. At any point, the point that I'm making behind all of this is that the Islamic history at Andalus is a rich one. The Islamic history in Spain was a rich one. And it was settled by Tabi'een and Atba' Tabi'een, and the knowledge in that area was very strong. And you find that historically, that knowledge continued to be spread, like people, Yahya ibn Bukair and Baqi ibn Makhlad and Ibn Waddah, and even after them, later generations of the scholarship there. And it was a jewel of the Islamic world. So much so that the disbelievers from Europe used to take it as a source of pride that their children would learn in the Islamic universities of Cordoba and those that were in Spain. And even the King of England would write to the Khalifa in Cordoba requesting that his daughters be allowed to study there. And he finished his letter off with the statement, "Your humble servant, the King of England." And so this is an example of the prominence that the Muslims can reach. Either na'taz bidinina, when we're proud of our religion and we hold fast to it and we implement the knowledge that Allah Azza wa Jal has educated us and implement the actions that Allah has directed us to in his book. This is the superiority that the Muslims can reach. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةِ وَلِرَسُولِهِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And to Allah is the honor, and likewise to his messenger and to those that have iman. And so these are some of the things that make us adopt or have an inclination to the Islamic scholarship in the West, in Islamic Spain, and have a connection to them, because we see how they managed to make Islam thrive in an area far removed from its central origin spot. And like this, we can learn here in the further West, in America, of how to make Islam thrive in this area. If we can adopt some of the techniques and some of the actions that they did in their time, because at that point in time, that was the furthest west that the world was. They didn't know about the new land in America, and that was the furthest reaches of the earth, and it became one of the centers of Islam. Anytime you meet somebody named Al-Andalusi or Al-Qurtubi, yani Tafsir Al-Qurtubi, for example, all of these scholars are from this area in Spain. And it lasted for over 700 years until the final fall of Granada in the year 1492. In the year 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. The same year that Columbus set out and discovered America was the same year that the last rulership in Islamic Spain, or Andalus, when it fell at what they called the Reconquista, which, that's another conversation, and perhaps Allah will give us an opportunity to go over some of Islamic history. But in any circumstance, this is the reason why we chose this book. This book by Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala. As we said, his name is Abu Umar Yusuf ibn Abdullah ibn Muhammad ibn Abdul Barr al-Namari. Right? But he's very famously known as Abu Umar ibn Abdul Barr, being attributed to his great-grandfather, al-Namari, al-Arab. He's an original Arab. Right? His lineage meets up with the Prophet and Bani Nizar. In Nizar, he was born in the year 367 and died in the year 463. Hafidh al-Maghrib, and his book is entitled Jami' Bayan al-Ilm wa Fadlihi. Inshallah, naktafi bihadha al-qadr for the introduction of the author, inshallah, in this book. And we'll also continue today, inshallah, by adding the first chapter of the book. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.